Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a safe place for leading with your heart. Hey, thanks for being here. You, Me, Empathy is the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective, a collaborative mental health community designed to empower each of us to grow our capacity for empathy, vulnerability, and emotional wayfinding. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. No one is just a silly boy with a feely heart. You can support the show by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts, following us on social media at Yumi Empathy and Feely Human, and joining the Feely Human Collective community at feelyhuman.co. And now your host, Known Wells.
Hello, Feely Humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells, and this is episode 152 on creativity, depression, and Cobbler's Gulch with my dear friend Norman Leonard. Norman, or as I call him, Norm, and sometimes the Lord of Darkness. He is exceptionally creative, such a talented writer and human, and I'm just so proud of him for, one, being on my podcast, opening up a little bit, and also, most importantly, maybe not most importantly, but very importantly, creating this brand new podcast called Cobbler's Gulch. It is for the whole family. It is a fantasy. It has witches. It has goats. It's about orphans. It's so much fun, you guys. I did some voices in it, which was a lot of fun. I did a couple of pirate voices and maybe a baker at some point. Norm just outdid himself on it. There's the sound quality, the music, the sound effects, all of the voices. Charlie and Sam, his kids, Norm's kids, are also in it. Norm also had some amazing, talented people, just a whole cast of people lending their voices to Cobbler's Gulch. It is truly wonderful. And as of this recording, I think episode 2 comes out today, and I highly recommend you subscribe, you rate and review. It's so wonderful. If you have kids, if you don't have kids, if you like kids, even if you don't like kids, you're going to love Cobbler's Gulch. It's so rich. It's just a beautiful fiction story that I think you're going to just eat up. Each episode's about 10 minutes. It's a great thing to listen to on the way to school or just listen to as a family on a Friday night or something. It's wonderful. And so in this episode today, we talk a lot about how Cobbler's Gulch came to be, because it didn't start off as a podcast, actually. And we talk about creativity. We talk about depression and how creativity and depression intermingle. We talk about our collective love of dark humor and its capacity for subversion. We talk about Norm's early literary references. And yeah, like I said, just we get deep into Cobbler's Gulch and a whole host of other things. Before we get to the episode, I did want to remind you, maybe not remind you, maybe I'm telling you for the first time, we have a Patreon. Yumi Empathy, me, Known Wells, and the Feely Human Collective as this triumvirate of feelings. We have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/feelyhuman. That's patreon.com/feelyhuman. And if you're not familiar with what Patreon is, it's a way to support me and the work I do on an ongoing basis. And in return, you get some rewards. Like, for instance, the $5 a month tier gets an extra bonus episode of Yumi Empathy per month and a shout out on the show. And I'm going to do shout outs in a second for my brand new Patreon people. And there's another tier where you get monthly Zoom hangs with me and other folks from the Feelyverse, Feely Human Verse. And the first Zoom I think we're going to do probably in early December. We're going to talk about advocacy in a time of, divisiveness and what feels like a very divided United States, at least. And then other tiers come with some merch and other fun stuff. So please, if you have a few bucks you want to throw around each month and support someone doing something he is truly passionate about, which is spreading more empathy and feelings into the world, please consider supporting me on an ongoing basis on Patreon, and I'll make sure to include a link to that in the show notes. Again, it's patreon.com/feelyhuman. And as always, there's a free way to support the show, which is leaving a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. It's free to do, it's easy, and it does truly help out the show. So let's, before we get to the show, this episode with my pal Norm about Cobbler's Gulch, I wanted to thank my very first patrons over on patreon.com/feelyhuman. I wanted to thank Jen, Suzanne, Jess, Whitney, Megan, Becky, Claudia, Michelle, and Sarah. As of this recording on Sunday, November 15th, those are the 9 patrons. I am so grateful. Thank you, you wonderful Feely humans, your big hearts and your Feely pants. Feely pants, that doesn't seem appropriate, but you know what I mean. I love you. You're the best. Thank you so much. And as always, if you ever feel like it's a burden or anything financially, don't support it. Stop supporting me. But I appreciate while you can. It's so appreciated. And again, listeners, you can support me too. Patreon.com/feelyhuman. Let's get to this. You know what? You know what's real fun about this is what's going to happen is I am going to play... Should I play it before? I'm going to play the trailer before the episode, actually. I'm going to play it before the episode, the trailer for Cobbler's Gulch. I'm going to play that before my chat with Norm. Even though I said at the end that I'm going to play it at the end, I'm going to play it before. So you're going to hear me talking now. Hello, hi, it's known. And then you'll hear the Cobbler's Gulch trailer, and then you'll hear my chat with Norm about his creativity, depression, and the whole origin story of Cobbler's Gulch, which I highly recommend you listen to. Subscribe now. Tell all your friends. It's wonderful. Norm is supremely talented, and this show deserves to be, I don't know, like on NPR or something. Not NPR, but like, you know, give him all your money and support because it's wonderful. So I'm going to leave it at that. You enjoy our chat. Thank you for listening. I love you. And enjoy this trailer for Cobbler's Gulch.
South of the Devil's Nest and west of the Crimson Forest, there's a seaside village on the coast of the mellifluous sea. It's called Cobbler's Gulch. Population? Well, nobody's ever counted. But if you looked around, you'd certainly see pirates and sea serpent wranglers.
Belay those tentacles, you weevil-eating blackguards!
You'd also see blacksmiths, woodworkers, bakers. You'd see a variety of cutthroats and monster slayers. In fact, one with a wooden leg named Wolf Montfort.
Wooden Wolf Montfort.
Who may or may not be coming out of retirement. From time to time, you would see enchanted circus performers. A two-headed sword swallower. A juggler who specializes in live chickens.
And occasionally dead chickens, but that's only when the show takes a bad turn.
A pipe smoker who blows smoke not into rings, but into pastoral landscapes that fade into nothingness.
Nothing lasts forever.
And depending on the season, let's say it's goblin season, you might see goblin footprints. You'd probably hear their nasty little argle-bargle voices. And as it drifts in from the goblin gully of exclusivity and privilege, you definitely get a whiff of that putrid goblin stench.
Yuck.
And you would absolutely see goats. Lots of goats. More than usual. But you wouldn't see a fairy, even though you should. A fairy's usually around, and you know that because they make the lilt blossoms bloom.
Pluck the blossom from its bed and blow the
Nobody's sure where the goats are coming from or where the fairy went, but there are a handful of orphans from the Cobbler's Gulch orphanage, and they're looking into it. More specifically, there's Hazel,
Hazel Peachwood.
the only girl, still heartbroken from the day her parents vanished. There's a shapeshifter named Zip,
I've been most everything, or just about everything.
everything from a porcupine to a walrus. There are twin jumbo dwarves named Lump
Flying, flopdoodles.
and Squish.
Holy higgledy-piggledy.
Both terrified the world's going to cave in on them. There's Oz, a Widdershin wayfarer who can't seem to find his way.
I'm good at finding the way when I'm not mixed down. Wait, down? Down? No, I meant up when I'm not mixed up. Ugh.
There are two juvenile pirates called Copper and Gruff, each of them a little too superstitious for their own good.
Our luck points true north.
True enough.
And there's Elwood, an uncommonly handsome hunchback who moonlights as a fortune teller.
Actually, my fortunes are more like misfortunes.
By the time these orphans are done, we might have to adjust the Cobbler's Gulch population to include, well, probably shouldn't say just yet. Cobbler's Gulch, an episodic adventurous brew of childlike wonder, goblin curmudgeonry, monsters that need slaying, and boundless friendship, forged in those moments when you realize you're a better you because of the person beside you. Subscribe now. And tell your friends, this is the kind of journey where you're going to want a friend. Trust me.
Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective. On this show, we explore the struggles, the triumphs, the brights and the darks we face as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You, Me, Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight, so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. You, Me, Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I am overjoyed to be here in person, sort of, with writer, friend, Lord of Darkness, and creator of the new podcast, Cobbler's Gulch. It's Norm Leonard. Hello, Norm.
Good morning. 4 minutes left in the morning.
Yes. How are you?
Good. Well, I better now that I got that intro, Lord of Darkness. That feels like I've, been upgraded.
I felt you'd feel comfort and warmth in that. Yeah. Well, I'm so happy to have you here, friend. The listeners, maybe this will be fun to you. Norm and I are friends. We're also neighbors. And, we've been sort of hanging out during this pandemic together, which has been nice to not be alone all the time.
Do your listeners know how far you hike, like your level of endurance? Because you do this thing, and it's like the Feely Human podcast, and it's sensitive, it's vulnerable. But I don't know that they do they know how rawhide tough you are at the same time?
Well, it's funny. I don't know if they do know that specifically, and we can get into that. But I think you're touching upon something that's interesting, which is this idea that those maybe are two opposing forces in some way, and I don't see them that way. Is that what you're getting at?
No, I don't think they're opposing. I just think that that a young man who runs a podcast called Feely Human, people might make certain assumptions, and they might not know that you're able to hike 21 miles, with almost no water, and just be humming the whole time.
Well, I was Frodo in another life, and yeah, I mean, I love that I can do both those things. I don't know. It's funny because I don't know. You're probably right. I think people do make assumptions. I mean, we all make assumptions about each other, right? Sure. I look at you, Norm, and I'm like, this guy lifts weights. He definitely likes sports. He
Wait, when did I start lifting weights?
I don't know. I mean, you're a big guy. You're strong. You're. I don't know.
No, I only bring it up because, like, whenever I'm writing, that's one of the things I try to do is like, okay, this is what you think you know about this person, and then what is really going on there. And so when I did that hike with you, like we did that hike for your birthday, right?
Yeah.
And for my age, I'm in reasonably good shape, and I feel pretty comfortable. Like I've run a marathon, and I almost died on that hike. Like at the end of it, I remember you stopped to talk to those people, and I was like, why are you talking? Like, can you see I'm going to die here?
Yeah. Well, first of all, that was fun. I had a lot of fun doing that, and I'm glad. And well,
it was.
But you did it, and I don't think many people can do that. Whether like you're wasted by the end of it, or whistling like I was, like that's just a matter of degrees.
Fair enough. Yeah, I just think that your people should know there are many sides here, many sides to know.
I appreciate that, and thank you, and I'm sure the listeners will appreciate that. Before we get into it, though, Norm, I'd like to do an emotional check-in. How are you feeling? It's something very momentous happened just earlier today. So how are you feeling? How are things?
Things are good for me. 2020 has been rough. At the beginning of the year and the end of last year, I had a really rough go. But I got in, did therapy, kind of got a handle on things. So I've been pretty good this year. I think it's been harder on people like you said, you made the joke that I'm like the Lord of Darkness. I think I generally operate under a more pessimistic, cynical, darker sort of state of being.
Yeah.
And so for me, COVID has been like, well, I'm glad everyone is seeing the world the way that I see it now. Not glad, that's not the right way, but it feels a little bit like, oh, now you guys.
There's like some solidarity there.
Yeah. So like my wife, who's normally sunshiny, has had a rougher time, I think. But like today, there seems to be like a shift in the tone of the country, at least. Yeah. So it was nice.
Yeah. Well, the listeners should know that, like, what I referenced earlier, it was announced that Biden and Harris won the presidency. That's very exciting to me, and feeling a shift. Obviously, tons of work still to be done, and as we were talking about before we got recording, one day at a time. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's do the work that we have directly in front of us. The other thing I think is interesting about what you said, Norm, is the piece of it where you feel like comfortable in a pandemic. And maybe comfortable is not the right word, but like I relate, like I empathize with that, because I think that, you and I have both had some, I mean, maybe where you're the Lord of Darkness, I'm like Junior Lord of Darkness. Lil Lord of Darkness, where like we have some trauma in our past, and when you deal with trauma and dark things, like sometimes things like this are easier.
Well, and this is probably part of like where I need to maybe do some work on the way that I think about things, some of that cognitive behavioral therapy stuff. But it's like a pandemic comes, and my first thought is like, see, I told you this is what the world is like. So like it almost seems like validating some of those darker tendencies I have, which is probably not a good thing. But I think one of the things I do is I'll lean on, like, I would say something like that as a sort of, to be funny, like when the pandemic started, it was, you saw those memes about introverts saying like, I've been training my whole life for this, and like using humor to kind of get into that, to I guess, to make sense of how things can get so dark so quickly. Like, I don't think a lot of people, like again, like my wife, she's just such a contrast to me. So for when things got dark, it was like, it did feel like a little bit of a validation. Like, because I think sometimes she struggles to see where I'm coming from, and it's like, see, this is what it can be like when you slip, when your brain and your heart kind of slips into a direction that you wish it wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because as I was listening to you say that, what the thought that came to mind is we need both mindsets. We need both of those things. Like we need Becky's and we need Norm's in that way. Right?
Which I think is why we got married. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. No, for sure. And I, like for me, it's not like maybe I'm, I don't know, less pessimistic than you are or whatever, but I definitely have darkness. Like, and I feel like comedy can be, this, like I love dark comedy, right? Like I think it can be this, I don't know, it can be levity. It can be calling out truths that like people are uncomfortable looking at, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing with like horror, which I think horror and dark comedy for me are like, kissing cousins. But it's like when you have a point of view that like leans that direction, dark comedy, the horrific, I think it brings a nice like balance, and it sort of it's in a very dark way. It is like a purge, like you say something totally dark, and it sort of subverts maybe what's going on at that time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of time that's what I'm trying to do. I fail about that. I fail at that a lot, by the way. So I say something inappropriate in a response to kind of relieve tension that I'm feeling. So I think a lot of it,
taking the piss out of it, is what the Brits say. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think is, I don't know. I get zinged for doing it too much, but I don't think collectively that we do it enough. Interesting.
Yeah. I feel that. Do you think that's how you always were, that sort of mindset?
No. I can remember always laughing at things that you're not supposed to laugh at, like having gallows humor, because I think my family does. But in a more direct way, so when I was a kid in our family, my parents were divorced and they were ugly. So using humor and using that as a way to cut through what would almost certainly be like a really tense or awful situation. Like I'm sure a lot of people who have divorced parents, like when your mom or your dad comes to pick you up from your recently divorced mom or dad, it ain't exactly fun. And so I remember very consciously coming up with things that I would say to make my parents laugh so that they wouldn't yell, so they wouldn't fight, so they wouldn't, I mean? So it does seem to go back to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that's a commonality, like among maybe a lot of like comedians, for example, like, early like weirdness or uncomfortableness in the house, lack of joy or whatever. And they're like, I need to cut through this tension, with like me being a silly pants or whatever.
Yeah. The only issue with that is if you do it like probably like the way I've done it too much, then it becomes like this thing that is more like it's more like a crutch than something that's empowering. It can become more, it can keep you at an arm's distance from things that maybe you shouldn't be an arm's distance from.
Like what?
I have a very difficult time like connecting with people. And so like if I meet somebody at a party and they're like, they say anything that I'm like, I don't like that. Like I'll immediately say something that just repulses them.
Yeah.
Just keep them at arm's length. So I would cut off an opportunity for connecting with somebody just to make sure I feel safe. Things like that, right? So going back, like if my parents are going to fight and I can make one of them laugh, well, the reality is maybe they should have that fight. Maybe I should feel that pain and that fear too. But instead, I don't want that. So I'm going to make everybody laugh so I can, something like that.
Yeah. It's an avoidance in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like it's survival tactic.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when Jessica and I met, I was very much, I had lived a life where I basically shut my heart off to the world, and because for survival, like that's how I survived. Right. And I remember getting into relationships that just like were never going to last because I like gave nothing of myself to anyone. And we would go, Jessica and I would go, when we met, we'd go to places and I would do the same. I would like intentionally say things that were deeply uncomfortable. And I was like raised in that. So I was like, fine. I could say it straight face and people were like, is he serious? It was like, they'd ask that and Jessica in her way would be like, trying to like make everyone happy and excited, and I would like in a twisted way kind of get off on it. I don't like that about myself, but I still have a part of that in me for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And Becky would do the same thing. Like there's been many times where Becky's been like, oh, he's creative. We'll have to excuse him now.
Yeah.
She'll make her justification. So I get that. Yeah. I'm torn about it because in some cases, like it's helped me to survive. Like I don't use that word lightly. Like when I say survival tactic, like it's really, really helped me to not go even to darker places, right. But it's still probably not the strongest way to, interact with other people. Certainly it's not.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think it needs to be this binary thing. Like you can hold on to it, and it could be a part of your identity and it's an important part, but it doesn't need to be the leading thing. It doesn't need to be like, maybe it's just shifting how you use it. Right.
Yeah. I've noticed like, and I love stand-up comedy. I love comedians and I listen to a lot of comedian podcasts. And one of the patterns I've noticed when I hear a lot of comedians talk about their lives is that they'll be self-deprecating and they'll be inappropriate, but they'll do it in a way that's aggressive and sort of mean. And as they get older and as they kind of grow wiser, it becomes something that, they'll still say those inappropriate things, but it's with more of an eye for connecting.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? It softens a little bit. I don't think it's true for all of them, but I have noticed that. Like, when those comedians that do that same kind of thing, where they keep people at an arm's length, like that slowly starts to go away.
Mm. Do you think, you're in your 40s now? Do you think you've softened?
Yeah, a lot of that has to do with having kids. Like you don't have a choice.
Sure.
I guess you do have a choice, but it's like the choice is like, are you going to be a good parent or a crappy parent?
Right.
And if you want to be a good parent, I think you have to soften a little bit because otherwise you're going to grow kids that have the same baggage that you have.
Yeah.
And that's what's weird too, is when you notice your kids starting to do things you do, and it's like, uh-oh. And there's no way you can stop that. Like it's going to happen. It's just the extent to which it happens, I guess.
Right. What are some of the ways that you think you have kind of softened a little bit over time?
Well, a lot of it I've noticed just in terms of the types of things that I pursue. Like for me, I'm a creative, and like if I'm not being creative, like I go to depression like quick, like really quick. So I always have to be doing something, even if it's something as insignificant as like a little woodworking project or whatever. But what I've noticed is like, mostly what I do is write. And when I first started writing, everything I wrote was really dark and really aggressive and really, really kind of R-rated.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just when you're in that space for a long time, you do kind of get calloused. I noticed myself getting calloused. And having kids, it was like, I can't read my kids this story I wrote about, whatever, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And I've started writing for them now. And in pursuing things that make them laugh and things that make them cry and things that make them feel, I've really had to broaden the way I think about storytelling, creativity, all that stuff. Because if I want to kind of nudge them in the direction that I think is healthy for them, I've had to grow creatively in that way.
Well, and I love that. And these stories are reflective of people, right? They're reflective of the life we're living, right? So, you're taking the lessons you're sort of creating in these stories for your kids. I'd imagine you're taking them on yourself in your life, at least trying to.
Yeah. Well, trying to, I think, is the key word there, but yeah. for instance, like whenever I write anything for the kids, I do want them to get something out of it, aside from just like a laugh or a laugh or like a jump scare or whatever I'm doing. Like, I do want them to be able to like look back on that and go, okay, this is what the crazy old man was trying to get through to me. I don't know if that'll happen now, but I think it'll happen later as they get older and they look back. At least,
that's exciting. Do you, this is maybe a sharp right turn, but what are the stories that you read as a kid? I've been thinking about this lately because I recently started rereading Where the Red Fern Grows, a favorite childhood story of mine. What were the things that you read?
I remember, and actually my son Sam just read these 2 books during the pandemic. Like there were 2 books that I read them, and when you read a book and sometimes it just puts you in the ether where like, I mean, the other things you would equate it to would be like the runner's high, flow state.
Sure.
Where the world just kind of is like foggy in the best way. For me, when I was a kid, like I read Animal Farm, and the description of the horse at one point, like it was just 1 page where it was just, I didn't know that could be done. Like the way that he described the horse, it was overwhelming. So that one, and then also Of Mice and Men. Reading Of Mice and Men was so the setting, like the way that he puts you in that place with those characters felt so very real. And when Sam read that, I don't know if I told you this or not, but he, Becky and I went for a walk and he was reading Of Mice and Men and he called us and he was crying because they just shot the dog who's about halfway through. And I was like, oh, if you don't like that part, like you're not gonna like the ending at all.
Such sad stories.
They were sad, yeah. They were very I don't know. It's funny because like Of Mice and Men, it's such a like very small story, like the small scale of it, but it was so huge in terms of the way it impacts you emotionally and like what you take away from it. Like it was just profound, especially at that young of an age.
Right. Yeah.
So those 2 were huge, like right off the top of my head. But then also, there were ones that were just like fun for the sake of fun. I think like a lot of the Roald Dahl stuff.
Oh yeah. Also very dark.
Also very dark. Yeah. Well, I love how he would take uncomfortable stuff. Like adults would get killed, but it was always funny the way they died. So it felt cartoony. But at the same time, there were like stakes. Like I liked that it wasn't like, I had a friend that I grew up with. And his parents would make him read like Fun with Dick and Jane, or just like horrible books where there was nothing, like there was no one getting hurt.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking like, this is bullshit. Like this isn't how it works. And so the Roald Dahl stuff, even though it was like over the top, like there were stakes involved. And so it seemed very real.
Yeah. I want to go back to like what you said about how when you're writing, like the writing kind of keeps you away from the darkness in a way. Like that creativity is like what fuels you. I'm curious, like, do you ever feel like, I don't know, there's an imbalance there? Meaning, perhaps there's a spot to aspire to where you're just being and okay.
I don't know. For me, like the way it feels, particularly with creative stuff, like I feel like I'm more sensitive than a lot of people, even though like you said, I'm a big guy. I'm, rough around the edges, and some people might not think that, but like I think I feel things pretty hard.
Yeah.
And if I'm not funneling those through this sort of creative filter, that stuff just builds and builds and builds, and then it just gets heavy, and it incapacitates me.
Yeah.
So, like the idea of just being is really difficult to even wrap my mind around, because like just being for me means like I'm absorbing all this stuff, and there's no place for it to go, and then pretty soon I'm just like withered on the vine,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I relate to that. I do, and I feel you wholly. I think I have a lot of that myself. I think a part of me, and maybe this is just my own unique sort of take on it, is that I feel like for my own, I don't know, broadening and just kind of enriching the rich tapestry of the human experience, I've had to find other paths as well, right? Like I mean, because like you, I have major depressive disorder. Depression is fucking dark and hard at times for me, and writing does help. But like I've had to do other things, and I've had to like create moments where I need to take in all the stimuli and feel it, and like just be me and those feelings and sit with them. Maybe that's just me, but that's the path I've had to like try to understand and look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've definitely tried to do that. I mean, my therapist is like, tells me all the time, like, you need to feel these feelings. And part of me is like, fuck you, you feel the feelings, it sucks.
Yeah.
I say that affectionately, by the way. The therapist I've had has been really wonderful. But it's tough. Like, that's really tough. Yeah. Especially, like I said, if you're the junior Lord of Darkness, like, man, good luck with that. Like, it's really, really hard. It's probably a healthy way if you get through it, if you get the other side of it. But the one thing, I don't know, for me, like, that I've come away with in terms of all the things I've done to like deal with having depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, all that stuff, is like, it's just constant maintenance. So I don't know that there's ever like a finish line until you're just dead. And I hope that's a finish line. But like, so just sitting with them and doing that, like, I think you can get through it and it's good, but then eventually that's going to come back. Right. So it's like, for me, it's always been about maintenance, whether that's like, taking medicine, meditating, exercise is huge. You know what I mean? But maybe I'm missing what you're saying though too. Like when you say, is that what you mean? Like just like feeling it and like letting it pass?
I think I mean that, but I think what you're saying is spot on. There is no fucking finish line, right? Like this is a thing we work through, and we work on it every day, and some days are harder than others and all of that. So I don't believe in some like box checked or finish line, I guess, when I hear you say that, it's just too much when I'm not sort of creating and writing, like, I think that's a beautiful thing. And that path, that, scenario has created immense works of art, right? I just wonder if there's more opportunity for that just raw kind of, sitting with your feelings, being curious about them and trying to unpack them from like I'm developing my emotional intelligence perspective as opposed to, working through them in story. And I'm not like, I don't bring this up to like, obviously like disparage you for that path. I think it's a beautiful one. I'm just wondering about, broadening the thing.
Yeah. And I don't, and just to be clear, I think that's the thing, that's my go-to, just because it's always been my go-to, but it's not, like I'm lucky in that I have I think a really great marriage. And so a lot of that stuff too is like sitting with that with my wife, like getting somebody who can like help me contextualize it. And I think I've gotten pretty good at when I do start to, when things do start to darken, being able to pretty quickly connect it to the trigger and sort of reverse engineer it.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, not always, but a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's taken a lot of work, but from like a lot of people, not just me.
Totally. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Cause like you mentioned, end of last year was tough. And I saw some of that in you. And, in addition to like therapy, which you've started, like what are some of the other things that have helped you this past year, other than just like feeding off the darkness and despair of others in a pandemic?
Which, don't underestimate that. I think that's a valuable
tool. As Junior Lord of Darkness, I do not, sir.
What else? I don't know. I mean, for me, it's like, it's always, and this is the way I do with everything. And this is probably part of my own inability to commit to things. But like, I have like just a bunch of different tools, and I don't know that I use them in any particular order or any kind of, there's no organization to it. It's like some days, like I better meditate today, or I can feel myself boiling over, or I better go for a run, or I better, you know what I mean? There's just so many different ways that I'll do it. And part of that is probably something I need to work on, come up with a more appropriate routine, or like I don't know, like an order, things I can go through. But there's just so many different things that I'll just kind of pull out of the toolbox. That seems to be working.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm curious about, I mean, what I know about you is like, I know you started some medication, maybe. You also did the thing that I did, which is like you had a genetics test, and like, and I don't want to discount that piece, because a lot of like when it comes to mental health and figuring out the things that, you know, burden us, it's work, and I think it's curiosity, and it's also like, you know, doing the work of like getting the tests and, you know, doing all that stuff. And so like, you know, I wanted to take that time to like say, hey, like kudos to you for like doing that, taking that effort, you know, that's huge.
And that was, I mean, I guess things I'm still on antidepressants. That was scary. Like they're telling you to take antidepressants, and the way that at least the medical insurance I have is sort of set up, they're like, here, try this. And I'm like, well, why should I try this? And they're like, I don't know. Like, we'll just see if it works. And if it doesn't, we'll try something else, which sounds like a horrible way to give somebody treatment. So we had that test done where they did like a mouth swab, and they determine which antidepressants will work best given your DNA.
Yep.
And so the issue with that was then the medical insurance I have didn't have that particular brand of, or that particular, whatever it's called, that particular medication. So I had to go out of network. But it does seem to be working, or at the very least, there's nothing bad. Like I haven't noticed any sort of kickback from the medication I'm taking, which is good. So like that, I've done EMDR, which was interesting.
How much of that did you do?
I only did a few sessions.
Yeah.
The woman that I was working with on that was a little bit, I don't know. It's hard to go where you need to go if the person on the other end kind of managing it isn't someone that you feel comfortable with. And she was
absolutely,
she was a little bit, she was uptight. She didn't have much of a sense of humor.
Yeah.
So for me, that's kind of a deal breaker.
She didn't see value in Lord of Darkness.
She did not. No. She was former military, and I have a lot of friends who are military, and I love them. She was really military, like even outside, even like beyond her military, she was rigid. And so it was difficult to kind of connect with her, but I did try that. Let me see, what else have I done? We did microdosing mushrooms. That was one of those things where it was like, I don't know if it worked or didn't work, or if it worked or didn't work, but it wasn't, you know, there was not really any kickback from that. What's funny about that is we went on a family vacation, and I love my mother-in-law, but she likes me to take pictures, which is my least favorite thing. Like, I would say my least favorite thing is probably getting depression, and then like a very close second when taking pictures. And so I knew I'd be taking lots of pictures. So I started microdosing mushrooms on our family vacation.
As you do.
Yeah, and it worked out. It was fine.
Yeah, I like that you brought that up, because it's something that I want to do too, and like, you know, take it seriously. Like I did a bit of it, but I don't know if either of us did enough to like see a sustained effect or impact. But like, speaking of, we talked at the top, like about the election, one of the bills that passed in Oregon, psilocybin therapy legal,
I know,
which is amazing.
People are freaking out about that, or not all people, but a lot of people, that they've decriminalized all those drugs. But I think I heard a study, and you should double check me on this, but I think Portugal did something like that. Like, it was a very extreme approach to addiction where they just legalized all drugs, and you could go in and get your heroin, your cocaine, whatever you wanted. You go to this hospital and it would be administered, like given to you from a doctor. And addiction went way down. Like, everybody, it solved a lot of the drug problem. I didn't think it solved it entirely, but it solved a lot of the drug problems.
Interesting.
And I think one of the politicians that helped to greenlight it asked the doctors, why is this working? And I guess she looked at him like he was an idiot, because people get better if you stop shaming them.
Yeah.
Which again, you should double check me on that story. I'm telling that from a third party, but that makes sense to me.
It does. I think shame is the worst. And there's a lot of shame in stigma, right? And there's stigma around drugs. There's stigma around mental illness, and shame is a breeding ground in that.
I want to qualify that. Unnecessary shame is the worst. I think there's definitely times when we should shame people.
Okay, give me one time we should shame people. What's an appropriate shaming scenario?
An appropriate shaming scenario. If you have a Twitter account and you say something that is just obviously racist, you should be shamed for sure. If you punch an old lady or an old man or really anybody, you should be shamed. You should be shamed. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So, all right. I don't think shame across the board is bad. I think it can be a good tool for growth used appropriately.
Sure.
But I know what you're saying. I guess.
Yeah. No, it depends on how you do it, how you use it. Like,
I don't think children should be shamed very often.
Right.
I think that, I feel very strongly about that. Like that, I think that leaves a kid raw. It skins them alive.
Gosh, yeah, you're bringing up a lot of memories, Norm. So you're a writer, a very talented one. The listeners should know that Norm has written. I mean, name a few of the things you've written. You've written some movies. You've written stories. You teach writing.
Yeah, I've written a lot of short films. I've had something like 18, 19 short films that have played all over the world in short film festivals. I've worked on some documentary feature films, writing narration. One of them narrated by J.K. Simmons, one by Meryl Streep, which was kind of cool.
Which one was that? The Meryl Streep one?
It was a documentary about the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. Gotcha. It was about sort of the work they did in the early 80s to get people were dying in the hallways of the USC hospital, and politicians weren't doing anything about it. And so this group came together. They started this. It wasn't called AIDS Healthcare Foundation at the time. I forget what it was called off the top of my head, but it became the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, and they made huge strides into getting people treated. So I worked on that. I wrote a children's book that I published with my wife about a firefly whose butt won't light up.
Barnaby the Firefly.
Barnaby the Firefly, yeah.
So good.
Which is coincidentally about our marriage, right? So a firefly who's dark and one who's light.
Oh,
right.
It's a very sweet book. Is that still available? Do you guys still have some of those?
We have them. You can't really get it unless you know me, but yeah, you can email me if you wanted a copy. I'll send you one. So I've done a lot of screenplays that have, gotten pretty far in Hollywood and then are collecting dust on shelves now. But yeah, more recently I'm doing Cobbler's Gulch, this podcast for my kids.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Cobbler's Gulch and its journey, because it didn't, it's obviously didn't start as a podcast.
Yeah, it started with The Wizard of Oz. I showed Charlie, my daughter, The Wizard of Oz when she was 2, against the better judgment of my wife.
Again, Lord of Darkness here.
Yeah. And she was terrified by the Wicked Witch. And she wouldn't sleep. She was crying. And my wife said I had to fix it since I created the problem. So I wrote her this little not a nursery rhyme, but like a little rhyme, like a spell.
Yeah.
It went, pixie dust, a summer's day, a rag doll with a crooked stitch. Listen closely when I say, be gone, you silly witch. And so I taught it to her, and she would say it at night, and then she would feel empowered, and she would go to sleep.
Oh,
great.
I don't think I knew that. That's beautiful. It's great.
Right. We had this neighbor who lived upstairs, and she was all right. She'd be kind of cranky. And when Charlie would see her, she would say that, like she would just like hurl off that little rhyme at this woman, and she'd be like, "What is she saying?" I don't know. I have no idea.
That's amazing.
But she had fun with it, and then we started creating our own little mythology about witches. And then as my son got a little bit older and could talk, he started contributing. And so this mythology turned into a story with characters, and it slowly just kind of grew into a really long book. Like it's 360 pages. And yeah, the first person to read it was my wife, and the second person to read it was my daughter. And I wanted to kind of keep control of it because I've working in Hollywood, things get taken out of the writer's hands pretty quickly. Yeah. Like the cliche, if you're a producer, is the first thing you do is fire the writer.
Right, right.
So, and then similarly in book publishing, you have to rely on a lot of other people to kind of get things going. And with the podcast thing, I was able to adapt it and just kind of keep control and keep people involved that I wanted to be involved and keep out suits that I didn't want to be involved. So it's been really fun.
Yeah. So yeah, tell the listeners a little bit about like just the general story, don't give away spoilers or anything, but like obviously witches are involved. Like who else is involved?
There's witches, there's goblins. Those are like the heavies, right? Yeah. And then one of the things that I've always liked about a lot of fairy tales is the fact that parents aren't around. Like there's lots of step parents or there's lots of dead parents, and it puts it on the kid to kind of figure things out. And I love that pattern.
Yeah, me too.
There's orphans. Like I have an orphanage, there's one girl and there's 7 boys, and they're all like deeply troubled and flawed and incomplete. And so they kind of pull together to take down this witch, but in doing so, they have to sort of resolve each other's flaws and kind of make each other whole again. Mm. And then going back to like the mental health stuff we were talking about earlier, like a lot of the things that each of these individual kids have are like little flaws that I know that I've had and how I think I've gotten a handle on them. And so in a way, it's sort of didactic for my kids, right? It's like when they read this, they'll just enjoy it because it's a fun, like adventurous romp. But then later on, maybe they'll think back and realize that I was trying to like nudge them in a certain direction.
Yeah. I love that so much. It's such a beautiful story. And I was honored to lend a couple of voices in this. And so the listeners should know, like, Cobbler's Gulch is a podcast, and it's a not storytelling podcast, but it's a fiction podcast about this story. You have, tons of voice talent, music, all of that.
Yeah. So the one thing about it that I would want listeners to know is that I wrote a story that parents will want to listen to with their kids, because I've listened to all kinds of podcasts that are for kids and they're awful.
Yeah.
I don't want to show anybody's podcast specifically, but like they're just sort of, they feel so like earlier I was mentioning Roald Dahl, like there's nothing really at stake.
Right.
It feels very I don't know, it feels boring.
Yeah.
And so in this story, like I'll give you an example. We have one of the orphans is a wayfarer, and his family has abandoned him because he had a bad sense of direction. Right. So he got lost, and they were so ashamed of the fact that he got lost when their whole thing is about wayfaring that they're like, screw this little kid. And so he's so lost that it even infects the way he talks. So when he says up, he means down. When he says left, he means right. So he's mixed up in all of the ways. And so hearing this kid try to get a handle on something, like there's a lot of comedy that comes from that. It's fun and playful, and it can get dark, right? Like there's serious repercussions for the kids. And I think that parents will enjoy that too. Like it's not like fun with Dick and Jane, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love a story that parents can love and kids can love. Like whether it's like a picture book or whatever, like it should be it should be like a thing that the whole family gets something out of it. And yeah,
I agree. And the really cool thing, and this is where the positive side of the pandemic, like if you need one, is that there's all these voice actors that worked on it, and they like gave their time to this like little tiny project. And I have like world-class, amazing voice talent bringing the characters to life. So if you've heard audiobooks before where it's just somebody like reading the story, like this isn't that. Like there's narration, there's music, there's sound effects, there's multiple characters, and it feels very much like a movie for your ears.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I've listened to, I guess there were some of the rough cuts, but they were amazing still. And I think we'll play the trailer at the end of our chat here, so people can get a taste and then hop on over to Cobbler's Gulch and subscribe. How many episodes are you breaking it all down into?
So there's 52 episodes.
Dang.
Just like there's 52 cards in a deck, 52 episodes.
And are you doing seasons or is it just like weekly?
Well, ideally, assuming that this goes well, I heard a little fun fact when I was researching witches is that, you have like you have a murder of crows, you have a flock of geese, you have a coven of witches, but more specifically, witches come in covens of 13.
Ah, okay.
Right? So this first season deals with the first witch of 13. So assuming this goes well, there'll be 13 more seasons, or I should say 12 more seasons after this one.
Amazing. That's awesome. Well, listeners, make sure to subscribe to Cobbler's Gulch. It's amazing. Norm is supremely talented. We'll play the trailer at the end of our chat here. Norm, we always wrap up the show talking about our empathy heroes, people in our lives who are empathetic, sweet, feely, whatever. I'm going to go first to give you a moment to think about your empathy hero. My empathy heroes this week, Stacey Abrams, and Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris. Stacey Abrams for the amazing work she did and bringing Georgia blue, which is quite the feat. And then Joe and Kamala for... Man. I know, right?
She really hustles. Yeah, she's
amazing. She's amazing. And Joe and Kamala for winning. And let's do better. I'm very proud of them. I'm excited for the future. But as our Lord of the Darkness friend says here, we need to remember for today, tomorrow. Let's temper our excitement. Take it one day at a time.
Simmer down.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, I think my empathy hero is always my son, Sam. Like he's a very, very sweet, sensitive kid. And he's always kind of feelings first when it comes to other people. So I think that would be my answer any day that you asked me.
Yeah.
Unless it was a day that he hadn't cleaned his room then.
I love Sam. Sam has been my empathy hero on this show before, actually. And so is Charlie, and so is your wife, of course. All of you guys are very empathetic in my mind, but
we all have our days.
Yeah. We all do. All humans. So Norm, where can obviously you can listen to Cobbler's Gulch wherever you listen to podcasts, but is there like a home base for it?
Yeah, cobblersgulch.com. COBLERSGULCH.com.
Awesome. Well, listeners, that the link to the podcast and the link to the website, cobblersgulch.com, will be in the show notes for this episode. And like I said, you'll hear just shortly the trailer at the end here. Norm, thanks for being a part of You Me Empathy. That was fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. And to you listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring, pale blue dot. We have each other. It's You, Me, Empathy.